for a little education. So there you are, sir.
7:58, it's close enough to 4 o'clock. And we got a quorum. So, call the meeting to order with the planning commission, August 1st. Roll call.
John Ferris, Hoyt Jones.
Here.
James Leftwich, Mayor Jerry Lowry, Robert Oakes, Robert Officer,
Present.
Emily Roberts, Jason Del Toro,
Jason.
and David Beaker. So we
I
have
think
6
I'll get
members.
that one wrong. I'm sorry. We got you here, sorry. Be quiet.
We marked you.
Sorry, I'm hard of hearing, so.
No, I'm sorry. We do have a board.
Planning commission, we have a consideration of a rezoning request for property located on Miller Point Road, further described as map parcel 40. You can read that. Does everybody know where that's at? It's on
Yes, sir.
the
So
north part
just a
was
little bit.
behind Mr. Chester, Mr. Sewell's property.
All right, so we have an application from Jeff Young and Steve Slatton to rezone the parcel described as map 40, parcel 081.01, located on Millers Point Road, from RA, single-family residential, to CD, general business. This application was included in your agenda packet, and just so you see, it's this hatched area here that is being considered for rezoning, and there's CD literally all around it. As you can tell, RA is across the street, but there's CD across the street here on North Spring, and literally engulfed by CD. I will ask Mr. O'Neill if they have said what their intent is for rezoning, or they just said they want it rezoned.
They just asked to have it rezoned.
Yep, so no intention given as to why they were going to rezone it, but none is required. It just helps us to know a little bit what more is happening. But in this instance, with CD completely surrounding it, myself and Mr. O'Neill have no issue with the rezoning. You can see it's a real long, skinny parcel there. Mike, what is this here?
Hospital.
Hospital. So.
So it goes, gas company's next, right there, you're looking at the gas company back there.
Okay.
Didn't we do a zone, some on appeal for a house on that lot
Yes,
next to it
the
for
last
Jones,
meeting,
for Brian Jones?
Brian
Yeah,
Jones.
Brian Jones done the lot that's vacant there, you see nothing on.
That one
Yeah.
there.
Right here?
Yes, he's actually building a red iron building there. Basically what he had, that's his over here on the back.
Yeah, that's his there, airport.
We give him a use on appeal because he was CD. This property is RA, it's basically one little tract of stuff there.
There was a barn or something. Is that right up against the sewer? Is that coming right,
The house.
is that coming
The
up right to the
widest
back
part.
porch of the sewer
Yeah,
property?
sometimes what you see on these, they're overlays and they'll lapse. That property does take in, Miss Sewell's that back driveway.
What is that? I don't know if I can't hear. What is that building there? Where?
The one, that
in
one?
there. Yeah.
That's a
That's
house,
Miss
the
Sewell's
Sewell's
house.
house.
That's residential.
Just above it is the Penny, yeah, the Church of Christ, so that might be the one. Yeah, that's the Church of Christ.
There's several of those across the road are the residential homes that have, they were there when we adopted zoning because it was on the main drag, it's zone commercial, but they can live there.
Would that have any impact on the property where the proposed RA, as far as like the driveway and all that, or no?
No. You know, any use that's existing lawfully can continue even if it's rezoned. So, I mean, if they're using that for access to the house or whatever they're using it for, that will be able to continue. Now, the big thing is that right now, zoned RA, you can do essentially single-family residential, can't do commercial, can't do industrial, can't do multifamily. When you rezone to CD, you then open up many more things that they can do. So you can, you go to CD, and then now you can do, residences are use upon appeal, but then commercial uses, just about any commercial use in CD. So it just really opens up the property, is what it does.
I move we approve.
Second. We have a motion to approve and a second.
Is that Hoyt on the second?
Hoyt.
Thank you, sir.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Any opposed, like sign? Motion carried.
Chairman, could we revisit the approval of minutes, please? No worries.
Approval of minutes, May 2nd. You should have an email. Any questions? Can I have a motion to approve, Ms. Red? So moved. Hoyt, and second, someone?
Second.
Poppins. So approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next on the agenda is, staff report, Bonner adjustment and power adjustment.
Yes, sir. So, since the last time we met, we've had 2 lot line adjustment plats, submitted for administrative approval, and I'll just go over them briefly and kind of show you what's happened. First is Carol Bonner, final lot line adjustment plat for the purpose of adjusting the common boundary line of 2 existing parcels located on West Bronson Street and West Everett Street. After the adjustment, Lot 1 would consist of .327 acres, an existing residential structure, and an existing accessory structure. Lot 2 would consist of .654 acres and an existing residential structure. The proposed new lots are zoned RA, low-density residential, served by an existing 6-inch water line and existing 8-inch sewer line, and will comply with both the zoning ordinance and the subdivision regulations. Essentially, what is happening here is, if you'll see, I'm gonna blow this up just a little bit. So, the old property line was right here. Everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
So essentially what they've done is they've moved the property line from here to here. So they have basically taken this pin, or there were some pins here, and they just took the pins out and put them here. So this lot gets bigger by this much, and this lot gets smaller by this much. And after the adjustment, it met all of our requirements, so thus we approved it administratively. Any questions on the Bonner adjustment? Next is the John Powers lot line adjustment, which we're adjusting the common boundary line of 2 existing parcels located on North Spring Street. After the adjustment, Lot 1 would consist of .327 acres, an existing residential structure, and an existing accessory structure. Lot 2 would consist of .654 acres and an existing residential structure. The proposed new lots are zoned RA, low-density residential. Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's not right.
I was about to say, you're looking at.
They are zoned MI and CD, and are served by an existing 2-inch water line and an existing 8-inch sewer line. And so this is a little tricky here. So if you'll see this parcel here, that is Domino's Pizza, okay? And behind Domino's Pizza is a very large tract that is zoned industrial. And so basically what happens is Domino's wanted to add a little bit more to their lot. And so Mr. Who owns that in the back?
Brown, Mr. Sam Brown.
Mr. Brown, they shifted some property around, and so basically what Mr. Brown did was this portion right here, so this was his access right here. And so basically he sold that to Domino's, and Domino's owned some property over here, and so they just gave him this 50-foot strip. So, we've got a little issue here. It's not a big thing, but it is something that we need to take care of. So, if things were to stay like they were, the portion that joins Domino's would be zoned industrial. And Mr. Brown's strip back to his property would be zoned commercial. So, let's go back up here to our other rezoning request. And you can see it pretty good here. And Daniel made me a good map, and I'll show you better here in just a second. But, so this is what it looks like currently. See that little strip right there? Blow that up. So here, this little strip currently is MI. And so let me show you what, they haven't filled out an application yet, so we're not going to consider it, but this will be on the September agenda, we anticipate. So bear with me just one moment. So Daniel made me this nice map here, and this is what we look like currently. Okay? We've got this track is CD here, and this is the strip for Mr. Brown's access. And when I show you this, you're going to say, well, that don't look any different, but I can assure you it is. So basically, we want to rezone this strip from MI to CD, and rezone this strip from CD to MI. When it comes, it is not, like I said, it has not
Today,
been.
you're just swapping the split, they're split smaller than 5-acre tracts.
Yeah.
To accomplish this. It was really a misunderstanding from the original survey. Mr. Powers thought that doing some work, and he and Mr. Brown worked out, they worked this all out, and they're just trying to make it right.
So this, it's tricky. It's a tricky situation. So, like I said, we don't have to consider anything tonight. We just wanted, Mike and I wanted to bring it to your attention, so when it does come, you're not taken off guard by it, because they've kind of let us know that this was coming. I don't see any issue with it. I mean, it makes sense. It's easier for Mike to police if anything were to ever come up, because if Domino's were to ever expand, they wouldn't be able to do so in that MI zone little 50-foot strip, and so it's just easier to get all of the Powers property all zoned to one thing. And Mike can tell you, anytime you've got split zoning on a parcel, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare to police. So,
As it is, this is really a fix.
yeah. And so what we'll do is we'll bring it to your attention next month or whenever they decide to come in and fill out the application.
Any issues with highway access?
No, when Mr. Brown.
It's still a state highway, so.
It's still a state highway, he will have to get, Mr. Powers had to go ahead and get, when he got his approval from TDOT and whatever Mr. Brown puts in, he would have to get an access approval through TDOT for that.
Yeah, so one of two things is gonna have to happen. You can see the driveway right here.
Yeah.
One of two things is gonna have to happen. Either Mr. Brown's gonna have to get a new driveway permit from TDOT, or the Powers property is gonna have to give him an easement across that driveway right there. But, you know, that's not really our concern, but however he works it out, he's just gonna have to work it out.
Okay.
Any questions?
Sounds good.
All right, then let's conclude the staff report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We have zoning, we got training today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can we go back to that
Which one, sir?
The one we just discussed.
That's right, I didn't leave it.
Okay, so that, by doing this, I just want somewhere in the notes to say that, you know, when he does develop that he would have to, the developer for the M1 would have to put the buffer strip there in for the residents.
I don't think I understand what you're saying.
There's gotta be a buffer between residential and
No,
industrial.
there doesn't, because it's CD. It's a residential home in CD. See
There's
what-
not a buffer between CD and industrial?
I'd have to look, I don't think so, I don't think you have to.
Figure it out real quick. My awesome book that Tanya made.
We need to know where to start looking.
I think we're talking about buffers.
So some will say, you know, between districts, and some will say between uses. And so it just depends on what the,
There's a chart on theirs in. It's in 14.
it's in 14.
Give me a second.
I don't see any. I don't really see anything right now. We may have to, oh,
Can
land,
we just make a note that, rather than hold you guys up, just make a note that,
we need to check on it.
that it would be checked on and that the M1 would be required? Because they would be the most aggressive use. If it's required, it would be
Sure.
the responsibility to do the buffer strip.
Yep, got it.
In the meantime, we'll do the rest of it.
All
Okay.
right. I can come up with an answer.
Okay.
Okay, training, since we got the zoning book in front of us.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So, I figured since we had rezoning on the agenda tonight and we were talking about the potential for the powers rezoning, I would just kind of go over, you know, what the steps are that you have to go through and maybe what qualifies somebody for a rezone. And so, if you would, your handouts that I gave you here, it is 137203, just kind of look at that. And so when you adopt a zoning ordinance in a city or county, one of the things that has to accompany that ordinance is a zoning map. And zoning map is essentially just breaking your jurisdiction down into districts based upon use. Okay? So typically those uses, you know, residential, commercial, industrial, agriculture, there's typically 4 different sets of uses, and there are different densities that are allowed, different types of those uses are allowed in different districts. Well, if someone has a piece of property and they want to do something that is not allowed in their current district, then they can come and ask for their property to be rezoned, which will allow them potentially to do what they want to on their property. But if you apply for rezoning, it is not a guarantee that you will be rezoned. You know, there are factors that you have to take into consideration when you look at a rezoning application. One of the things is the use that is intended for the property. Now, it is not required, but it is certainly something that should be taken into consideration, because if someone comes and says, I want to rezone, let's just take the Young request that we got here, he can say, my intent is to put a bakery here on this property. Well, that is something that we would take into consideration. But intent is not binding. And that's something that we should all make sure that we understand. Just because somebody says that they have the intent to do something, a million things can happen between the time the property is rezoned and when they actually, you know, go forward with their intended use. So back to this example, I intend to put a bakery on this property. We go all the way through the process, and the process is this. You come in, you fill out an application at City Hall. You pay a $50 fee. 50? 50. Pay a $50 fee. The purpose of that fee is to advertise that the property is going to be rezoned. Once you pay your fee, you come and bring your request to the Municipal Planning Commission. And then when the Municipal Planning Commission reads it, they either take one of two actions. They either recommend to the board, to the city council, that the property be rezoned, or they deny it. If you take no action, or if the motion fails for lack of a second, then nothing happens. It stays as is. So, if there is a positive recommendation, then the motion goes on to the city council. Now, I'm pretty sure in Sparta that there are 2 readings for zoning. So, it then goes in front of the council for what they call first reading. And if the council looks at it, sees the recommendation of the planning commission, they feel like it would be a good use for the community, then the property is rezoned. Or they vote on, they pass it first reading. If it passes first reading, then there must be a public hearing so the general public can come in and give their comments, because you've got affected property owners all around it, and they need an outlet or a way to say that they are either in favor of or against the rezoning. State law says that for this public hearing, you've got to put it in the paper for at least 15 days. So, Sparta, we meet twice a month. Typically, you couldn't have first reading and second reading in the same month. You would basically have a buffer meeting, so to speak, in between. Then, the public hearing takes place, and then after the public hearing, the second reading happens. So, if you get the positive you come in, you pay your fee. You come to the planning commission, get a positive recommendation. You pass first reading, city council, public hearing, pass second reading, then your property is rezoned, and I believe, is that effective immediately, or is there a?
The last reading before.
Yeah, so effective immediately. So remember my example. I'm planning to put a bakery in. Once that property is rezoned, any use that is permitted in the in the CD district can be used there. So when you're thinking about rezoning a piece of property, you need to consider, well, yes, this is the intent, but are we okay rezoning this property for any use that is permitted in the CD district? So I've given you, state law, and it says there, I'm just going to read it briefly. Before enacting the zoning ordinance or any amendment thereof, the chief legislative body shall hold a public hearing thereon. And notice it says chief legislative body. Public hearing can't take place at the planning commission level. It's got to take place at the chief legislative body. Shall hold a public hearing thereon, at least 15 days of notice of the time and place shall be published in an official municipal journal or in a newspaper of general circulation. Typically we do expositor here, that's the newspaper of general circulation. All right, number B, no change in or departure from the text or maps as certified by the planning commission shall be made unless the change or departure be first submitted to the planning commission. So it says it's state law, zoning changes, whether it be an amendment or a map change, cannot happen unless it comes here first. We are the first line of defense. And it says, down there on number C, it says, notwithstanding the requirements of any municipality's charter to the contrary, the entire text of a comprehensive zoning ordinance need not be published in a newspaper. For those municipalities whose charters do require ordinance to be published, it it shall be sufficient for the comprehensive zoning ordinance that its caption in a completed summary to be published. Typically, what we would do, or I would hope that we would do, is if we do change the ordinance or change a notation, you just simply put something, further information can be requested at City Hall or contact staff planner. Any questions about that?
If you're gonna put a bakery in and you advertise it as that, and all your neighbors thinks there's gonna be a bakery put in, and then you renege on that and do something different, is that gonna aggravate the neighbors?
In the ad, you don't put the intended use. You just simply put to be rezoned from X to Y.
Okay.
That's where you gotta realize, say CD, and just take for instance Jeff Young's property. He's going to CD, but he can always come back on appeal and you put residential RB inside that property.
Which, and you know, that should also be considered as well.
Exactly.
The uses on appeal should also be considered.
Yeah.
Not as heavily as the permitted uses, because permitted uses is by right. We'll never see them again on a permitted use. But on those appeals, they at least have to come back. Very good point, Mr. Chairman. Any other questions? So I've got this underneath, I sent you another one. I was gonna, do the powers of the Board of Zoning Appeals, but our meeting got canceled, so we'll hold off on that until next time. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any other business necessary?
Just one more thing, Mr. Chairman. Would like to introduce Charles Cobb here to everyone. Charles is gonna be helping me out in case of my, I brought Josh to you a couple months ago. Josh is still in the pipeline. Charles is just another one. I have already been called away for our November meeting. I already know that that's coming. So, either Charles or, Josh will be here if we have business. So just wanted to bring that to your attention.
I was gonna say in case of his demise. Having no other business, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Let's go home.
Second.
Do we need to leave our books in the library, or we gotta take them home?
So is it use or is it zone? So it just says if adjacent to any other zone